Okay. Thank you, Father, for the day. Welcome to the beautiful, my little French girl, Kate Hall Johnson.
Yes,
Audience, I'm telling you what, if you're able to pull over if you're driving, and sit down and take notes from this, or you're going to want to listen to it a couple of times, we are getting ready to get a master class on travel.
sure.
And we're here with Kate Johnson. And again, yes, I call her my little French girl, but she is my daughter in love. And I am just so thrilled and proud for her, what she has done with, being this incredible wife, amazing mother of, yes, they are my grandchildren, but these
Thank
two
you.
beautiful girls, Merritt and Jane. And she in Houston, the way they figure all of this out is incredible. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I know we've talked about
Oh,
making this happen for months, if not years. So I am so thrilled to be here and always excited to get to talk travel, but love getting to be with you and I guess we'll try to keep it to 30 or 45 minutes or whatever.
yes.
Good luck.
Okay, we're going to try. Okay, first of all, if you would tell the audience, travel, this is a big subject. And, again, thank you, Father, since the pandemic,
Yes.
people are doing everything they can because we have experienced the shutdown.
Right. Yeah.
And the great news is, I believe we're all much more global in our thinking and in our
Yeah.
connections and all of the things. So that's wonderful. Um, and pre-show, you and I were talking a little bit, and we're going to come back to this. I want all of you to be thinking about how thoughtful or not you are about travel, how
Yeah.
intentional. And before we get to that very important subject, Kate, I know you've had a love of travel since you were a little kiddo. Your darling mom and dad, they love travel. How did you get here to become this award-winning, amazing luxury travel advisor? How did this happen? I mean, my
I'm
goodness.
laughing because I love sharing the story, but you and I were the only people there when it happened. And I love this full circle moment for us because yeah, I think that I was kind of I was a new mom and it decided it might be time to reapply my talents back in the workforce. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs and have a lot of entrepreneurial family like you that kind of surrounds me. So I knew that if I was going back to work, that doing something for myself would be, the most likely scenario. And then, of course, as a conversation that you and I had, Carol, when you very graciously had an aha moment and said, I know exactly what you need to be doing, and I know exactly who you need to talk to. And this is what I think your calling is, which is travel planning and helping people see the world. And I'm gonna do a text introduction right at this instant so that we can make this happen. And so that was really the impetus. And certainly I had been planning travel, my own travel for years, my family's travel, friends. I had a bit of a travel blog. Yeah, so I was living in Paris and got to have you and your daughter, my sister-in-law, come over and stay. And I think you said there is no way I'm going to France unless you plan it for me. And so I did. And we do need to resurrect the 7-page Google document, which is somewhere, that was all of the do this and leave this building and take a left and turn down this Rue de Saint Honore. And
Unbelievable.
yeah, so anyways, I really have a very big passion. My family growing up always wanted to see new places, so we did not have vacation homes or places we would go back and revisit. It was always, well, we've been there, what's new? And so we spent, a Christmas in Hawaii saying Mele Kalikimaka and learning to surf. We spent, the holidays once on a catamaran where we fished for our own lobster for our Christmas Eve dinner on the beach one night. Of course, a place both of us love so much, but a bucket list trip to Africa to celebrate my parents' wedding anniversary, and now getting to experience a lot of these places with my kids, with you guys. I mean, it's really amazing. So my team focuses and tries to refocus on the why we do what we do. I think it's a great practice, especially as everybody gets bogged down with their to-do lists and administrative tasks and email overload. And so every week we do, I'll get to share maybe a moment of why and a special scenario or instance that we, have really been able to transform people's lives through helping them see and experience the world.
Wow. And just creating these memories, whether
Yeah.
it's for an individual or a couple, friends, family, like you said, it's, um, I mean, all the levels. And I will share with the audience, I did not grow up doing a lot of traveling. And I feel like now I'm a traveler because Kate will say, okay, yeah, you can go and you can actually afford it. And I'm going to help you figure it out. And I was like, okay, I'm in. If,
Sure,
and
absolutely.
I will tell y'all the truth. The question she called and said, would you and Alice Carroll and Mary Pat
Yeah.
like to come to Paris? I said, absolutely not. She said, why? And I said, because I wouldn't know what to do. I'm not going to research properly. And I'd feel terrible about spending dollars and then getting there and say, what in the world? And
Yeah.
she said, what if I plan it? And I said, I'm in. And Mary Pat, I don't think is ever going to be thrilled about that because she was on her own trip, by the way, having a ball.
Yes, we have to recreate that, but London
Yes.
this time. We have
And
to take it to
Alice,
London.
oh my goodness. And I want the audience to understand when I tell you that this is before, apps and
Yeah.
all the information and
Yeah.
oh my goodness, everything's on your phone.
Yeah.
Kate handed me well, it was just basically a file folder.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was 7, maybe 10 pages long,
Yeah.
daily itinerary, where to turn. Basically, she drew maps for us, told us when to get lost as we were traveling around, but to be sure and get back to the, you know, train station by this time and come home and take a 30-minute nap because then we were going to
Yeah.
get this. It was unbelievable. And I said, I don't know why you're not doing this for a career because people need this service. And you created for me, for us, for Alice Carroll. I mean, the memories they're priceless.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I think that if there were questions asked to people, if you could afford it and you had the time to do it, what would you do? What would you learn to do? And what would you do more of? And I'm
Yeah.
going to say 90 to 95% of those answers would be about travel.
Yeah, I think that there's something that you learn about yourself when you travel to a new place. I think you are learning, of course, about I am a learner. And and I think that there's the learning when you go to whether it's a cultural, historical, anything, seeing things from a different perspective. I also think that getting out of your comfort zone, there's a lot to be said about not doing the everyday and getting out of your schedule and out of your routine a little bit. I think it helps us relate to each other as humans more,
Mhm.
um, and have an appreciation for just like the human experience. And then I do think it's really cool when you're with family, when you're with friends, and you get to have this moment of shared experience and thinking about when we were with you and got to go to the Vatican together, which to me was so special. And we got to be with the girls, and it just to getting to take them to Paris and see them like eat a Nutella crepe. Just little things that it's like, this is awesome. And then coming back and getting to talk about it and share, and then how it kind of informs even the youngest to the oldest in terms of your day to day, coming back having learned how to make sushi, and now you love to eat sushi and have a new appreciation for raw fish.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for the benefits and the lasting effects of just a simple vacation.
Yeah, I love that. And I love especially your kiddos. They've traveled more now than I will on this backside. My runway is not as, let's just say, not very long ahead of me. But the point being that they realize that the sameness of people. You
Yeah.
know, and I think that's important because especially during a time of maybe disconnect and let's just say there's a lot of judgmentalness out there.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And I think that the travel, I know just through conversations with, the littles, at 10 and almost 8, they realize how the same we all are, like you said, as human beings.
Well, and even getting into the car to drive somewhere, and they're like, "Oh, in Venice, remember
Yeah,
they don't have cars, so they get in boats, or whatever." And you're just like, "Yes, you're exactly right.
that's
There are
right.
people who don't have. You can be in New York and maybe you don't even own a car. So,
Right.
I think there's a lot to be said for that kind of mind opening, especially in younger kids, so that's kind
Ah,
of ingrained in them at a young age.
and then when they're reading, my travel was all through reading, and
Yeah.
I, through my imagination, would picture these places and these people. And these kiddos that have traveled, now when they read, they're actually relating from being there to the story. They can put themselves in the stories.
Yeah, and I think that they think maybe like the world isn't as far away as we think. Like my youngest had a school project for animals, and this animal she selected is lives primarily in the Amazon, and she was like, "Could we go there and see one in real life?" And it's like, yes, one day we can. It's not going to be this weekend, but she's just like the Amazon, cool, Brazil, let's go.
Yeah.
And I think that certainly beats the alternative if there's a sense of fear around
Yeah.
travel or anything like that. It is kind of nice to have that sense of anything is possible.
The other thing is they realize they can go places. I'm still amazed. I still want to do an entire class on the podcast. I know the audience wants to hear it on how to pack in an overnight bag to go someplace for more than 5 days. I mean, it's
Yep.
a miracle. But these kiddos are realizing they can two things. Most importantly, they have learned about flexibility and
Yeah.
patience because travel, you really cannot, if you're going to have expectations, certainly hopes that everything just falls into
Yeah.
place, the connections and this and the that. But if they don't, that's just part of it.
Yeah.
And all of us need to be more flexible, more realistic, calmer people in
Yeah.
general. And I think people that travel, I think they realize that. I think that there is a flexibility that they're like, oh, this worked out great. Yay.
Yeah.
Didn't work out great. That happens.
Sure. Same for kids going to a restaurant and they're like, well, I can't read this menu. It's not in English and I don't know. And this is not my normal ham and cheese sandwich that I might have. And so it's like, great, we're going to try things, be flexible, adapt. I do think that the flexibility, adaptation, and then just like a heightened sense of like all of your surroundings. There's different smells, different sounds. I think all of that is definitely part of it.
Incredible. I mean, I so appreciate what you do. And I want to back up before I dive into what I believe needs to be the bulk of our conversation.
Yeah.
But I want to back up and audience, Kate has an incredible team.
Yeah.
These, I am telling you, this group, and they're from everywhere. So give the audience an idea, where is everyone from? And they're of kind of a wide range of age. Is that true? Or did I make
Yeah,
that up?
yeah. We have I have six in-house support staff, and then about six other advisors who plan and execute trips for their clients. And yeah, we're all over. There's a few of us in Houston and then scattered around the US, Tennessee and North Carolina. There were some ladies that wanted to get real seasons throughout the year. So they moved to some mountain towns. And then in Central and South America, so team members in Mexico, Colombia, um, Guatemala. So yeah, we really run
Yeah.
and we primarily work on the central time zone. And then we do have partners all around the world that work locally in their time zone so that we're able to support our clients no matter where they are in the world, while they're traveling, which is just like you were saying about adaptability and flexibility. Yes, things change while you're on the ground, and so having contingency plans and communication in place to be able to support our clients if there's a train strike in Italy that affects their plans, if there's like you said, a missed flight connection or a flight delay. Bags that don't make it, weather changes, things like that. So, yeah, we do talk with our clients about what those contingency plans are, but making sure they know that they've got a team that's got their back while they're traveling, working in the background, in advance of all of our clients' arrivals at hotels. We've been in touch with the hotel. They know when to expect them, share their preferences. It really is, kind of a game changer if you have not traveled with the support of professionals
Yeah.
versus trips that you might just kind of wing it and do on your own. There's a lot that goes into the planning, execution, and monitoring, which is really nice for the clients to have a very seamless experience.
Oh, I've experienced change while traveling.
Yes.
Of course, well, in the example I'm thinking of right now, we had gone to see Mary Pat, who was studying in Spain.
Uh-huh.
And it was amazing. We did not have to bother you. You had people right there for us to connect with that would help us with anything that we needed to change or how to get to places or it was amazing. So audience, I want to tell you, and the other thing I want to point out is that it growing up not traveling, when people would say, "Oh, my travel agent, my travel advisor," and I'm thinking, "Wow, that must be out of sight, expensive." And then what I found out is it is very reasonable if there's a cost, depending on the
Yeah.
what the planning entails. And there's so much value on the backside because of your relationship globally,
Yeah.
it actually saves money quite often, or there are upgrades and all this. So I want to point out again to the audience, if you have worked with a travel advisor, yay, because you get it. But I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you, there's nothing like KJ Travel and this Kate Johnson. And the other thing I want to say is if you have not, this is worth that phone call.
Yeah.
This is worth an email and ask questions. And now I do want to ask, I want to share with the audience something that you and I spoke about pre-show.
Mhm.
And here's the thing. And I am one to say, oh, this sounds like a great idea. Let's go do that. Oh, yeah. When so and so graduates, we're going to do that. And then I wait till that happens. And it's like, oh, should have done that a little earlier.
Sure.
Like all things,
Yeah.
I am going to say especially with travel. I asked, I have to tell you, one of our incredible brother-in-laws, Joe Bob, I said, "Do you plan things way in advance or in advance?" He said, "Oh, I plan way in advance."
Yeah,
And it was such a good lesson because audiences, Kate and I, we were speaking a little bit about thoughtful and intentional long-term travel plans. She mentioned, I loved it. It's like, okay, this is how our family and our finances and things look now. You know, someone's going to graduate in 2 to 3 years.
sure.
Our parents or grandparents are only
Mm,
going to be able to travel for a certain amount of time.
mm,
Our kiddos, their school schedules,
mhm.
individual for gifts. There is so much thought and planning that we have an opportunity
Yeah.
to get with working with you, Kate. Will you talk a little bit to this intentional and thoughtful and long-term planning?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot that maybe is misunderstood about travel in general because it's every destination is different, seasonality is different, hotels and accommodations and different like quality thresholds are different all around the world. And I do think that we have a tendency to maybe have a knee-jerk reaction if we get a school calendar or if we realize, oh, we don't have plans for the holidays, we should really go do something. And then you might end up at you maybe want to try somewhere new, but by that point, it's either too booked or there's maybe some things that are prohibiting you for getting to do what you want. And I think just like we plan for a lot of things in life, if we have financial planning that kind of we have goals and different thresholds for achieving those goals. We should approach travel the same way. And so we talk to a lot of clients just about, hey, what's on your bucket list, maybe with you and your spouse? And okay, y'all want to do one trip together per year. And here's some of the things that you're thinking of. Here's your window or your time that you're able to do that. And then they might have a handful of places that they want to experience. And it's not like you can't go everywhere all the time. In Europe and around the world, there's seasonality restraints where hotels and entire regions may only be open from April to October. So think about the Mediterranean, the Adriatic, and then there are places that are open year round and that offer something different every time of year. So in early June in Paris, it's very lively. Over Thanksgiving break, it's completely decked out already for the holidays. So then and then there's pricing considerations that go with the seasonality. So shoulder season, low season, and high season are the typical seasons you would see in a calendar year. And being able to be thoughtful about your planning and say, oh, I don't have to go to the Amalfi Coast in August when it's hot, crowded, and double the price. How about we go in late September? Water is still warm, pricing is better, crowds are more manageable, and it's an overall better travel experience. And so, but being able to make that shift, that educated adjustment, does require conversation, consideration, and things like that. So I think also in travel, there's a big shift towards sustainability. And you see this with places implementing visa requirements and fees. So if you want to go to Venice, they started this last year during the summer. Thursday through Saturday or Friday through Sunday, I believe, certain dates of the summer, they required you to have a visa for daytime visitors because they're trying to preserve their city that is becoming overcrowded and having some really impactful infrastructure issues because of, everybody wanting to go to Venice in the summer, coming off of cruise ships, staying at hotels, that kind of thing. So, I think by all of us being more informed about these shifts, about timing, I think that that really helps with the overall travel experience. No one wants to overpay for something. No one wants to have their, you can't even get a photo by yourself in front of something because you're just surrounded by a crowd of people. So I think that sustainable, thoughtful, intentional travel, kind of having a loose schedule for multi-year plans. If you're like, I want to go to Alaska this year on a cruise, and your youngest is maybe 4, I would say that's not the best time to go. Let's if you're wanting to do adventure activities, and there's older kids that want to go and do glacier trekking, you're going to be in a bind. So let's slate that for, maybe in 2 years. And by the way, that does need to be booked a year in advance, maybe even longer. So when you already kind of have some of these parameters in place for at least a year to two, you have the confidence and peace of saying, "Oh, I've got this figured out. I want to go on an Africa safari sometime in the next 5 years." And now we have talked through maybe what's going to be the best window for that, when we would need to start actually booking, and then what maybe the pricing or budget looks like that we need to be mindful of already. Most people are not going to go to 5 continents with blowout bucket list trips, every year. So we, I think that's a really, it gives our clients a sense of like, huh, I've gotten that taken off my list, and you're going to help guide me through at the right time to execute against our plans.
That's incredible, and I love that. Let's just say it. We all need to be more thoughtful and more intentional about
Yeah,
everything.
sure.
And travel is so important. And back to when I wasn't going to go on my own to Paris, it's just nice to speak with you and just say, okay, let's get out our calendars. And you ask the questions
Yeah,
about the family, about travel, about what everyone's doing, so that you at least can start gathering the information. So when you're having a conversation with your family, it's not just this crazy conversation and everybody's
totally.
like, oh my God, well, let's just forget it. This doesn't sound easy.
Yeah, whenever you have kind of different windows and of opportunity to travel, and then whenever you can kind of slate in, hey, this is really best, your goal for this trip is really best achieved during this other travel window that you have. Um, and I think that also it's really cool to lean into the interests of kids, of parents, of grandparents at different ages. We did a mother-son trip. I think it was maybe his 16th birthday, and he was really into food. And during the conversation, we were talking about food, and then we talked about some of these other things. What is he into? And she said, well, he likes cars. He, does all these video games with cars. He loves to tinker and go to, maybe car shows and whatever. Um, so we're like, okay, perfect. And we put together an amazing itinerary, visiting a region, a lesser known region in northern Italy called Modena. And it's also the home of Motor Valley, is what kind of it's called. So that's where all of the Ferraris, Maseratis, Ducatis, Lamborghinis, the factories, the museums, the driving experience to do a test drive. And then that's also the heart of some of the like amazing Italian products, Parmesan, the balsamic vinegar of Modena. So then the cooking experience, the car experience, and it was, all centered around the child's interests at their time. Same for, as you know, one of my littles is just animal obsessed, and so we're, that is something that's on our radar to want to capture that enthusiasm, the like zest for learning, the firsthand experience. I think it hits harder when it's something. We do a lot of trips to Greece for families when they're learning about Greek Orthodox and mysticism and all of that. And so then it really comes to life for them, just like you said, what they're learning in the classroom, what they're reading in their books. And then they get to go and see the Temple of Poseidon or the Acropolis. And they're like, oh, wow, this does exist. And this is what it looks like and feels like. And this is how hot it is, maybe in some cases for
Well,
some of
and
them.
and I mean, I'm covered in chills because these are curated trips that are they're so personal, they're so meaningful,
Yeah.
so much around it, and the center can be, wow, God's creation. I mean, this is on every level, it's such a gift. And I also want to bring up to the audience
Mhm.
that thoughtful and intentional planning also will support and help the dollars around these trips. You know,
Sure.
the longer you plan something out, the longer you have to put a little aside to where it adds up. A little can go a long way. Maybe I can't go today someplace, but I could sure go in 18 months.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that that's also where uh, seasonality comes in and booking windows because there are places and opportunities that are missed if you're kind of like, okay, well, I need to go on this trip in 2 months. Well, now these hotels might not be available. The experiences you want might not be available. You can't do the shared tour of the Last Supper with a small group. You need to do it privately. There's there's a lot that goes into it, and so I think that we have those conversations about what is most important and where do people get their value from, because everybody has a limit of what they want to spend maybe for some desired outcome. And so that's along the lines of some of the questions that we ask so that we can hit the nail on the head with our proposals and execution.
I love this so much. And the other thing, if you're hearing, and I'm sure you are, proposals and execution, travel, you are building something. And it takes this thought and this intention, and it's like, okay, here's the dream trip. And you're
Yep.
like, okay, great. And you and the team put together the file. And, I can talk about this from a construction background.
Yep.
Somebody calls and says, this is what we want to create. And we'll say, okay, here's all of it. And they're like, ooh, okay, fabulous. However, we might not add this into the
Uh-huh.
garage right now. And yours maybe you might not go to this one place and save
Mhm.
that for a different trip. One of the reasons I'm so thrilled for Kate to be sharing with us today, audience, is because I have watched how many years have you been doing this now, Kate?
7.
7 years. You'd think the answer was like 25, but she's very young. She's one of those young professionals to watch, is what I say. But it is incredible what she is doing day in and day out. She and her team, the hours, the thoughtfulness, the planning that goes into this, and the assistance, all so that you can feel, I'm glad I did this because I am going to get even more value out of what I was hoping for.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And we love getting to share with clients once they've come back from their trip. And sometimes we think we know maybe what their highlight, their big moment was. And then sometimes it's this other experience that came to life in a totally different way or something serendipitously. But I will say there's a lot of care and consideration that goes into it. We're at our computers a lot of the time, although the world is also our office, and we wouldn't be able to advise as well as we are if we weren't also in the field, as they say. So checking out new hotels, new experiences, getting firsthand, education for ourselves to be able to make the exact right match. I was thinking about Valentine's Day and some of our content and newsletters for clients. And I was like, we really are matchmakers in that sense that a lot of times clients come to us and they're like, we don't know what to do or where to go. This is our window of time. This is what, we're interested in. This is where we've been before. This is what's important to us. And then we get to really put our creative hats on. It's matchmaking. It is part science, with the execution and kind of project management in that way, and then it's an art, getting to design everything to flow into each other to give clients at the end of the day the best feeling of their vacation. And we just got off the phone with a client. We planned a trip for them last year to Iceland, and now they're going back to Europe this summer. And they just said, we still think about our guide that we had on our trip. Our kids were teary whenever we had to say goodbye. They expected all of the ATV tours and the horseback riding and the Blue Lagoon, visit and all of that, but they didn't expect the genuine connection with the locals, with the team there, with their guides, and that I feel like is part of the transformation. And I think something that's really special. And so those relationships, and in addition to the experience and the memories, are things that you get to take with you. So,
Unbelievable. And I do have the privilege of knowing some of your clients, being a client, but also knowing some of your clients. And they do talk about how incredible it is that you and the team, you travel the world and your relationships,
yeah.
the difference that it has made if they used, if who I'm thinking of right now is very well traveled. And they
Mhm.
said it makes all the difference coming and meeting Kate's and her team's boots on the ground where
Mhm.
we go, and the fact that they have been there and they knew just what they wanted to share with us, all the way from headed to Disney,
Mhm.
whatever that is, to, like you said, to heading to Iceland or to
Yeah.
Africa, and y'all have been everywhere. I know that, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to wrap this up, and I love being with you anyway. What would you like? First of all, I'm going to throw out all Kate's, contacts and socials and all the things will be here, but I'm going to throw out it's kjtravel.com, correct?
Yes.
And so just for an easy Kate Johnson travel, KJ Travel, go there. I mean, you're going to find your unique creation, your unique experience and these new
Mhm.
memories as you work with her. Kate, anything to wrap up before we say thank you to the audience?
I would just say there's no time like the present. Yeah, a lot of people put off things, the maybe the timing's not perfect, or the pricing isn't just right, or you don't know where you want to go, but you want some type of experience. I just think life is short. I think time together is special, and I think travel has the power to transform. And so, yeah, I think there's no time like the present if somebody has been wanting to visit somewhere or have an experience.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. This was so fun.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, audience. As always, interact, ask questions, get in touch with Kate, start the conversation.
Sure.
Like she said, no time like the present. And, thank you, Father. Hook 'em.
Thank you, Carol.